Welcome to the Talking with Top podcast. I'm your host, Todd Carter. Today on the show, we have Alysia Cutting. Alysia is an entrepreneur and a radio personality. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's definitely a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on. All right, let me go ahead.
I appreciate the invitation. It's all good.
Thank you. All right, this episode is sponsored by 93 Michi Beats. Forget your producer. My beats are made by Michi. All right, Alysia, go ahead and tell everybody, where are you from?
I am proudly born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts, not Boston. We are on the other side of the state. We are in Western Mass, and I do say we are the birthplace of basketball Hall of Fame, and the enshrinement ceremonies. Also home of Dr. Seuss and a few other things and people, including now the multi-award winner, costume designer, Ruth Carter, also born and raised in my hometown. So had to represent for Western Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts.
Awesome. All right, so just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I do wear a lot of hats, and I joke around over the hair. I really do. I am a proud graduate of Tuskegee University, and I majored in mechanical engineering. Graduated from there, went on, worked as an engineer, but also entered media. And then also had a concurrent career when I left working as an engineer. I went into education and taught math and science for about 15 years in the Springfield school system. So I do a lot of different things. I've been an executive director, a vice president at one of the YMCA systems in Western Massachusetts, went to Connecticut, did marketing. So I've done a lot of different things in a few different areas, but most of all, I'm just really happy to be able to do my part in the community, to inspire others, and just to be a positive force. That's all we can really do.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. All right. So how did you get inspired to become an entrepreneur?
Fun fact, I did not really think about this when I was growing up, but most of my family have been entrepreneurs in some way. Going back to my father's father, he was an entrepreneur, and my dad was the first Black veterinarian, also Tuskegee graduate. And he had his own clinic, of which he retired after 50 years. My mother, also who went to Tuskegee University, she, being an entrepreneur herself, opens up a radio station, first Black woman, after a whole David and Goliath struggle, and it's an FM station. So I've always kind of looked to be, without thinking about it, an entrepreneur. But for me as an adult and being a parent and now a grandparent, the entrepreneurial life for me has always been about freedom. Sacrifice, absolutely, but ultimately the freedom to be able to do what I need to do when I need to do it, wherever I have to do it, but I'm ultimately responsible for it.
Right, so, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I love how it has shifted where so many people are becoming entrepreneurs, where it used to be a time where it was just, you didn't think outside of the box. It was just, you did your 9 to 5, and now it's where people are doing 9 to 5s, but they also have a hustle, something that they're doing on the side that they kind of get over into, and before you know it, they leave their 9 to 5 and focus completely on that. So I love how that has emerged.
It really can. Yeah, no, it really can. Not just, and this is my personal opinion, everything I'm going to speak today is my personal opinion, but I really feel like the difference is when it's your passion. If it's just something just to make money, that's not going to be sustainable in the long run, because the work that it takes to be an entrepreneur is not really easy stuff. And if you're not passionate about your product or your service, you're doing yourself a disservice to try to become an entrepreneur. Find your passion, and there will generally be a way for you to monetize it and still be passionate and true to yourself.
I agree with that. I really do. So how did you switch your careers though. So I seen that you got a degree in mechanical engineering and then you went into the school system. So tell us a little bit about how you switched careers.
Well, actually, when I graduated from Tuskegee University, I graduated married with 3 children. Basically, I was 8 months pregnant with baby number 3. So I was doing the finishing my engineering degree as literally a wife and a mother. That really was always a priority for me. So when I came out of school and I did work as an engineer, I did that. Eventually, I found that I wanted to align my schedule more with my family schedule. And so I chose to leave the profession of engineering per se, but then go into teaching math and science and building essentially future engineers, I think. I did that mainly again because of my family schedule, and I found it really comforting and powerful to have my schedule aligned with the vacation schedules. So that's kind of was one of my first shifts into the school system. But along that time, I also started working in radio, and then I also started working as a side, doing other things in media like writing and editing and other things, and some television work too. But I did have a couple other career shifts. I'm just going to throw those in there too, because it's all part of the story. When I decided to leave the classroom after about 15 years teaching middle and high school, might I add, I went into the nonprofit world where I was the vice president of membership and marketing, as I said, for YMCA of Greater Springfield. I also went to the YMCA in Connecticut and was doing marketing too. But ultimately, I stayed in the nonprofit world too by doing work in medical advocacy in Albany, Georgia. So I'm working with a nonprofit down here doing consulting work around medical debt and maternal health and other things. So again, being my own business has allowed me to be mobile. And
Mhm.
when I left the school system, of which I loved, but that had a time period on it. I still go into the schools though, but now as a speaker, now as a commencement speaker or as a guest speaker. So I'm still able to be hashtag always a teacher, just not necessarily in the classroom day to day. So I've had a lot of roundabouts and done some other things, but that's really has been my motivation where I can be flexible, but then
Mhm.
also be a service to my family. And now that they're grown, I still love being an entrepreneur.
Gotcha. And how did you become the radio personality? Tell us a little bit about how you got that role and how you navigate through that.
Sure. I actually realized I started in radio when I was in high school because I was that kid that always had something to say about everything. And there was local radio, college radio, that had a Monday night program called Teen Talk. So I would come on and we'd share out and talk and discuss about different issues. So that's really kind of where I think my bug was like, oh, yeah, let's do radio. So
Mhm.
when my mother opened up her radio station after a very, very long FCC fight, it was almost this is where my gifting is, music selection. So I've been music programmer, I have been on air, I have done operations, I've done advertising, I have done the whole arts and crafts. I mean, I'm the whole artistic side of it as well. But
Mhm.
I entered it because I'm a good daughter. And it wasn't about a nepotism thing, but honestly, my parents paid for me to go to college. I'm gonna bring my gifts and my talents back to the family radio station, which is what I've done. So that was how I got started. But after a while, nepotism is not what it is. This is an opportunity to get your foot in the door. But if you're doing it and you're good at doing it, then that's just what it is. So I'm grateful
Awesome.
for the opportunity to have had family to be able to give me my professional start.
That is good. So, what advice would you give someone who wants to become a radio personality?
Number one, know who you are. Know who you are. If you're a person who is very outgoing and you really love that kind of, and that's really authentically who you are,
Mhm.
then you have to be able to represent that. If you're not that, then don't force a personality that is not you.
Mhm.
If you're not really about, let's just say country music, don't try to put on, hey, I'm the pro about country music. It will not come off authentically because it's not you. There are so many different ways to enter in that you really have to decide that you enjoy the music, that you enjoy interacting with the public, because that's what it is. You're a comforting voice when things are going wrong. You're the person who connects them to their favorite song. That's a role that you play. It's not just getting up and emceeing events, but it's a
Right.
whole thing. And if you, and I will just say, make sure that you really love music and that you love people. And if you don't, it might not be the thing for you. Because I'm going to be honest with you, ask radio personalities. The job itself does not pay a lot. That's not where you get money as a radio personality. You
Okay.
get money, you earn as a radio personality primarily through live remotes, emceeing events, and things that might come out of your
Mhm.
about your being recognizable in the community. People ask you to MC events. You open
Right.
up at concerts. So the
Mhm.
actual, unless you, and I will caveat and a little asterisk, unless you're a radio personality at, certain markets
Mhm.
with certain numbers, that's the caveat. However, the regular person in radio is not making a whole lot of money. So you're not going to want to do this just because, oh, I want to be on radio.
Right. That is awesome. As you were talking about that, I thought about I was speaking with a social media um, creator and influencer. I'm sorry, influencer. And the first thing that he said about that is that you have to make sure that you stay authentic to yourself. And so you're so right. No matter what it is that you do, you can't
Mm,
be somebody else. You have to just be you, and then get people to follow you or like you that way. So I do agree when you said that you got to just be you. And even in this podcast,
yeah,
I'm just being me with my
absolutely.
the little quirks about me. I'm just gonna put me out there and not try to duplicate somebody else's podcast or what they're
Mm-mm.
doing. I'm just doing something that I believe in, which is entrepreneurship. And I also believe in having people on that I know that has a great story, and so that they can hear and be inspired. Like you already said, how your mom open up her own radio thing. So that's something for somebody else right there that they're listening. That so I love those type of stories.
Mhm. And when I tell you even that quickly, that when I tell you was not easy, it was a David and Goliath story. It's WEIB. And if you go back and do some research on that one, we are again the only Black woman-owned, Black-owned commercial FM radio station along the East Coast now that focuses on smooth jazz. So that's not something that it took a long time to get there, and you
Mhm.
have to, as an entrepreneur, have that passion, belief in your service or in your product, because life will life, the
Yeah,
obstacles will come, and every force under the planet will probably try to tear you down and prevent it from happening. You have to believe in yourself.
absolutely. So one of the things I like to ask people when they come on is, when did you discover your purpose in life?
I think over my life, and I really believe that I kind of knew it very, very early on. I'd say before I was 10, I was about 9 or 10. And being transparent, I teach and talk for a living. I hated the sound of my voice as a child. I don't really like the sound of my voice. One, I'm old enough to have been, little recorders, and we record things and you play it back. I could not stand the sound of my voice at all, period. On top of that, I sing like tenor, so I like a deep voice, sing a deep singing voice. And I had a speech impediment through elementary school. I remember third grade vividly. I couldn't do my R's. I had a rabbit on the roof. It was like I was going to they were preparing to take me to speech classes. And then I had a stutter that I still kind of navigate actually. So it just makes me laugh now that I
Mhm.
felt like I always had something to say as a child, but I didn't like my voice. I was very, very shy. I was a performer. I danced since I was 4. I was a performer, but very, very shy. And I felt like I was like, but you're going to be on platforms. You're going to be on stages. And that I vividly remember being in the hallway of my parents' house. And I was about 9. And guys like, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay. But That's pretty much what I realized early on.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And as you said that, I smiled because I too had a speech impediment. So I had problems with my S. And so even now on this podcast, certain words I have to slow it down because I would hear it. And as I get older, I've noticed that now those words are starting to come out, probably like they
Mm,
did when I was smaller. And so now I just slow myself down to make sure that I am pronouncing words correctly because sometimes it
mhm.
does come off a little bit. So, yes, I too, but I've always have been a talker.
Isn't that crazy? I never will forget. I was told more than a few times I talk like I had a mouthful of mud, like I might have a mouthful of rocks or something like that. Because what you said was powerful. Learning to slow down is not just a coping mechanism of how we talk. To me, as I've gotten older, it's just more powerful in general. I can slow down. I do talk fast
Me
in
too.
different contexts, and in different contexts, in different geographical locations. They're looking at me like, what? Because we talk fast. I talk fast. So slowing down has been a good life lesson because it's allowed me to get some pregnant pauses. It's
Mhm.
okay. Slow down. It's all
Right.
good.
Absolutely. I love
There's a
that.
message in that, actually. Yeah.
Yes. So motivating others makes you feel what?
Motivating others makes me feel, I don't want to say joy. Joy is obviously one of them, but like I'm a conduit of the creator. And it's like I'm playing a part. I'm playing a part in making the world a better place.
Yes.
Because we can't do it alone. We all get periods multiple times in our lives when it's like, what am I doing? Why am I trying this? And to be able to speak a word of life into someone else, even in the thing that you might not think that it really meant that much, but to them at that very moment, God was like, ooh, you're going to say this, and that's what they're going to need to hear at that very moment. And it's not going to be like it's a woo moment for you, but for them, it's changed the world. And so when someone shares that with me, something that I said was like spoke to them, I'm like, oh wow, that's just a blessing. And it's very empowering to be like, you're not crazy. You're not
Right.
crazy to try to encourage other people. There's a purpose for that.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to go to the section where it's called on a personal note. So this is where I give you like some random questions just to, you know, break it up a little bit. So
Sure.
first, I do want you to tell everybody what D9 organization that you are a member of.
While I love and have members, friends of all DNI organizations, and I respect the work that we all do and the purpose that we serve in our communities, I am a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and I am gladly, gladly, gladly happy to be in that same sorority as you, my dear.
Yes, I love it. And also, so did you pledge at Tuskegee?
I was very busy at Tuskegee, getting married, having children, finishing a degree. I wanted to, but life was like, yep, nope, that's not going to happen. So I did go graduate chapter in Springfield, Massachusetts. So shout out to my sisters in Xi Xi Omega, and actually, fun fact about that on a personal note, my mother was a charter member of that chapter. I came in
Wonderful.
through that chapter, and one of my daughters did as well.
So that's
So
probably
it's
why it was
actually,
for you to do it in Tuskegee.
you said what now?
I said that's probably why it wasn't meant for you to do it in Tuskegee. Your
Oh,
mom was a charter, so just to go through, that legacy part of it. So that's probably why
mhm,
you had to do it there.
mhm. I'm telling you, now she did at Tuskegee.
Okay.
She was 60, so she was 67, I was 97, and my daughter was 2017. But that's absolutely a beautiful thing, the way that, again, trusting the process,
Mhm.
trust the process of life when it doesn't seem like it's what you want and how you want it necessarily. Trust the process.
Right. So since I have disclosed what sorority you're part of, I want to just go ahead and tell the audience how I met you. So I
Oh,
actually met Alysia in an airport, and I think me and another soror we had on paraphernalia, and we instantly, guys, just was like, you know, and I remember telling you, I was like, oh my God, I got to get you on my podcast. And so now we're doing it, which is like 2 years later. But it was just that you was just such an energy. And I just knew that I wanted you on, and you just had done so many things. And I was just like, she is one of the people that I do interview. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I get you on my platform.
and I appreciate that. And I remember it well. And I was just like, oh, hey, how you doing? What's good? Someone's hey.
Absolutely. And I love that when you're out and about. I always tell people I try to travel with either that on, or I'm a graduate of Miles College, so I like to have on something from HBCU, so that when we're in those airports, we are representing HBCUs, letting people know how many people have been educated through that. Before we go on to other schools and things like that, it's just like that. I'm very proud of the HBCU experience,
Me
and so
too.
I try to.
And And I do the same. Usually my MO on a personal note is to have a Tuskegee shirt, generally a band shirt because I was in the marching bands, and then an AKA jacket or something like that. That's kind of been my MO because I've traveled a lot and airports are cold.
Yes, absolutely. So, what is one thing that people misunderstand about you?
And again, this is just what I feel like I hear sometimes. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're just, you just know so much, you just do so much." And I feel like I just only talk about the stuff I know. So it's like, if you only talk about the stuff you know, then it's not just rambling on about things that you don't know, sounding stupid. But I also feel like people think that I'm just always wanting to be out and about. And I promise you, I am an introvert. I could go for days technically without really talking to people.
Really?
Absolutely. See, you're proving me right there. But when I dig in and and it's time to either be a facilitator or it's time to give a presentation before the Senate, before administrators or before government officials, or it's time to MC an event or perform or do something like that, it's on. But
Right.
aside from that, I'm just chill. I am not fancy. I am not, I'm not, I'm chill. I like just super chill.
Well, you look fancy.
It's the
So,
flower. I think it's okay, maybe the earrings. But
look, and
yeah,
you look
it's
fancy in real life too. So come on, and you're like, I'm not fancy. I get what you're saying, but you look
yeah.
fancy.
But I'll be thrift store fancy, but I'm not like, just go out there and just buy a lot of stuff and whatever. And this is just my personal story. But yeah, I love and enjoy being around positive people and doing positive things, but that's not the bulk of my life. It seems like that, but I just love what I do. But when I'm not doing that thing, I'm very, very much like, Musa, that's where I get my energy from.
Right. Now, I do see you dancing a lot, and that wasn't on our thing, but I do see you dancing a lot, and I love that because you are like all over dancing.
I love it. I hashtag dance is life all the time. I did start dancing when I was about 4, studied under Frank Hatchett, Google him. He's now passed on, but I basically have done most dance forms and ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, hip hop, point ballet. I went through some point shoes back in the day, West African dance. I danced in the band at Tuskegee Marching Crimson Pipers. Hyperettes one time, and that's our little thing. So, but I definitely feel like, especially from a cultural standpoint, we need to reclaim our culture through dance. So I do West African or Afro size even or Afrofusion that are rooted in the diaspora, that bring our rhythms, because I feel like when we are so locked into boxes, we don't feel the natural desire the way that we should towards movement. And we lose a lot of our connection because it's so visceral. When the drums start, I have had people who have never danced to any, djembe drum. They've never danced West African to any styles whatsoever. And it's intuitive. And it's not that you teach them steps per se, but you're teaching and you're guiding through the connecting of their body that we don't always move. And we don't wonder why we have so many, other hangups about things, but we have to practice moving our bodies. And to the cultural things that we have, that's a big one for me. But I definitely hashtag dance is life all the time.
Yeah, you gotta keep moving. So dance is a good form of exercise. So
Mhm.
definitely want to be moving. What is the best advice that you've ever received?
Um, Best advice I've ever received.
It could be about anything.
Sure. Well, in relationships, I'll say this one because it just popped back in my head. If you're in a relationship, and I'm gonna say the word, don't both be a fool at the same time. Okay, so don't and that again. That's not the word that this elder couple who had been married for like 60,000 years that they said. They use another word aside from fool, but don't both be a fool at the same time. Meaning one person in the relationship, and I'm going to extend that past romantic relationships. It could be a friendship, it could be a family member. But if you're having an intense moment, don't both be a fool at the same time. Somebody pull back and stabilize it.
That's good. I like that. I'm
So
gonna use it.
don't both be a fool at the same time. Somebody in the moment, somebody be the more mature one. And not to say that you don't revisit conversations or that you leave things unsaid, but don't both be here at the same time.
Right. All right. Somebody got to pull back. That's one thing that I have been working on with myself as I started self-discovery when I started this podcast. I had to just learn things about myself, why I responded to certain things, and I learned
Mhm.
to talk less on things, and not let anyone bring me down to their level, but necessarily bring them up to mine when in regards to, just something that I'm not agreeing with. So I've been
Mhm.
working very hard on myself to not to respond to everything. So
And may I actually add something that for me has been really, really powerful? I do want I told you before, I'm that person, I'm that kid. My little person always had something to say about everything. Very opinionated, not in a rude, obnoxious way, but very introspective, and I'm a critical thinker and I always
mhm,
have been. So I always had something to say about any issue when given all the facts. Okay?
mhm,
At this stage in my life, just because I may have information, if the person's not in a place and they already have their agenda, what am I doing? So I
right,
encourage everyone. I encourage everyone to save your energy when, especially, I'll say this, when we're coming into very highly energetic times when everyone has something to say and we're not listening, we're not hearing what people are saying, but we're responding for what we think they're saying versus what they said. You
mhm,
don't have to respond to everything. The
mhm,
old saying, not my circus, not my monkeys, is true. And that especially is in regard to online. And as a joke, sometimes, because I also am kind of, sometimes I have responded to people who have trolled me, and I'd be like, I'll go a couple rounds with you, a couple passes. I'll ask the question, well, why do you feel like this? And they can't answer because that's not the response that they thought they were going to get from me. And so I've kind of gone back and forth a few times, but then it's like, yeah, what am I doing right now? They have
right,
agenda. I'm not falling into it. I'm not going to convince them. This is not monetizing my life. Go do something else.
right.
Save your
Yeah,
breath.
yeah. That
Protect
that
your
is.
peace.
You have to. You have to in any relationship. It could be a friendship. work related, personal, whatever. You have to protect your peace, and that's what I'm so big on in this
And
season.
that's online too. I'm so serious. That's online too. If you know
Mhm.
you have people who are in your life or on your feed or whatever, and it's always elicits that response in you that you have to say something, I'm telling you, save it.
Absolutely, I agree.
Somebody else will do it, I promise you. Protect your peace, save your energy.
So, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Being misrepresented and misunderstood.
Okay,
That's
explain.
a hard one for me. And it has gotten easier as I've gotten older. And again, took on the mantra, not my circus, not my monkeys. People will always say something about you. They'll always project out. They'll always feel things that you have not said and try to attribute them to you. So you just got to realize that that's just a part of living this life, that you will be misunderstood. That the things that you do that might be in a very, very pure place and a really beautiful motivation, they might be misunderstood. Get over it. Know that you did it for the right reason. So for me, oh, it's always been like, I will, no, but that's not what I said. This is what I meant. And I'm trying to help you to understand. No, you're misunderstanding, you're misrepresenting. And this is really, really what I'm trying to say. And I spent a lot of years doing that.
Mhm.
And I realized, what has that done for me? But wasted a lot of time, elevated my blood pressure probably too much, too high, too often. And for what? Just know there will always be someone who misunderstands and misrepresents what you're saying or what you're doing. Get over it, narrow in, focus in like a laser instead of having your energy all over here. Focus it in to be more powerful, more focused, and distraction free. That's what has been my biggest pet peeve. Pet peeve, and I'm getting over it. Slowly but surely, I'm beginning to like, okay, like whatever. If you say 2 + 2 is 17, boo, you got that. Okay,
Right.
okay, okay. I'm not gonna debate. Okay.
That's a good rule of thumb to be. Just to I think as we mature, we learn that again, as we said earlier, you just don't have to respond to everything. So I do.
It's and it's taken me a long time to get here. And I'm really at 53, just kind of beginning to get it flow. And I'll just be transparent. That's been my biggest pet peeve ever. Ever.
Mhm.
Ever. Hmm.
Amazing. Well, as we wrap up, our final question is, what is your favorite Bible verse?
So I actually have a couple, but
Okay.
and this is not to sound cliche, but Jeremiah 29:11 is that, I mean, that whole narrative has always been a leading, guiding refocuser of my life. When things have gone left and I thought they should have gone right, when everything was topsy-turvy, when I'm walking on quicksand and not trying to know I just don't know what's going on in life. That has been the main one that has reeled it back in and be like, I know. God said, I know. Not just what the thoughts are that I have for you. When everybody might be feeling this kind of, I know what I have for you, and I know the path that I have for you, and I know the plan that I have for you. And if you just lean in to
Mhm.
me and leave the other voices and distractions alone, it'll be very clear. So that has always been a huge one for me. But more recently too, there's this, I want to say, oh gosh, I really should have pulled it up. But it's Psalm and it's based, I want to say 35, and basically that God collects your tears.
Mm.
And that God collects your tears because, people say I don't look like what I've been through, and we all have our stories.
Mhm.
You just don't know people's backstories or their current stories. We put on
Mhm.
facades, we do whatever. But when you really look, for me in my life, I've shed a lot of tears. I've had some tears and some tearful things. And it's like the thought and the imagery of God comforting me by saying, listen, ooh, I know. I was there.
Mhm.
I carried you through. But I saw, I felt, I heard, I captured, and they're not in vain. And that on the other side of many other obstacles, I got them because I
Mhm.
see you.
Right.
And that's been powerful for me because I look back over the life and it's like, wow, as many lows and highs as I've had, and as many crazy situations, I can see that God has still carried me through
Mhm.
so much stuff, and that's the only way. So I've always had to lean into that scripture. Again, I have so many, but that's like one of the main ones right there. Jeremiah 29:11. Mhm.
I agree with that because I look over my life and I always say that I'm God's favorite girl. But when I look over on things that He's just brought me through, I'm just so thankful because I'll say, not that I have anything that's just like really big, but I have. But it's like even when I'm being foolish and didn't know some things, it's like He'll let me get to the edge, but He won't let me fall over. And I'm just so thankful for those moments in my life when I look back over some silly stuff I've done, in my younger days, and just like, and I'll just say, thank you, God, for just loving me in such a way that
Mhm.
you kept me, you know.
Mhm.
And then in those
And
times, life got really hard. Again, He kept me. So I'm so thankful. And that's why I like to end my uh, episode with God, just reference a Bible verse so that the person that I'm interviewing can, just share something that may help someone. So that's what I
Mhm.
do that for too.
Absolutely, because even if you've gone through some serious traumatic situations and your life would seem unbelievable to people who actually might look at you and be like, there is no way that this person endured this. There is no way that this is part of their story. And you know for a fact it was there, you were there, you got the receipts, it happened, things happen, life really just was seemed like it was punching down
Right.
from all sides and just squeezing you with a foot on the chest. I'm here to just stand and affirm that things don't always make sense. But if we lean in and if we really, really believe that eventually we'll see in a bigger picture and that God is with us in the midst of even those situations and will comfort us in the little things, even in the midst, it doesn't seem like a big miracle, but watch for the little miracles. Watch for the things in the moments of peace, even in the midst of just crazy situations. It's there. The
Yeah,
creator of the universe literally cares about you.
absolutely. I do definitely believe that. So tell everybody how they can follow you on social media and support you.
Sure thing. So I do have two Facebook pages. One is myself as a person, Alysia Cutting, Alysia. And also I have ALC Media Inc. That's also on Facebook. I do have my Twitter is Alysia Cutting. My TikTok is ALC Media 4, the number 4 for you. And what else did I miss? Oh, Instagram, ALC Media. And yeah, LinkedIn, all the usuals. And yeah.
All right, guys, you can follow me on TikTok and Facebook as Tot Carter, on Instagram as Ivy Tot 10 and Talking with Tot. Until next time, y'all go out there and make somebody's day. Go ahead and tell them bye, Alysia.
Bye. Have a positive, peaceful, and a productive day. Be blessed.